Hi, Student Success. Welcome to week 2. This is your video for week 2, which runs from January 25th through the 31st. Hopefully you made it through week 1 okay, and you're slowly starting to get adjusted to Blackboard if it's brand new to you. And as we go throughout the next week or two, hopefully it'll be even more familiar and you'll be completely comfortable navigating. So as a quick reminder, when you do log into our course, you'll always land at the Start Here section, which is just the overview. Feel free to, watch that intro video as many times as you need if you need to navigate it. There's the East Stark State video. And then, of course, all of the syllabi and different resources are on that page as well. I did want to, because I actually got an email this morning about the textbook. If you wanted to have it in a PDF format to print it off, you can certainly do that. When you go to the textbook, I'm going to click right there, and I'm going to actually go to the home button, and I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and it says download this book. And I can download it as a digital PDF or PDF that I would like to print. And that's if you are interested in possibly, printing some pages. It does relate, or it does kind of connect to about 500 pages. So it's quite a large book, but this might allow you to print sections off if you're interested in that. You certainly do not have to, but I wanted to at least show you that possibility. Okay, most of the time we will be in this lessons area, of course. This was where you had your syllabus quiz, another link to the textbook, your lounge where you introduce yourself, ask questions, the student workshop assignment. Remember, this is something I talked about just a little bit in the intro video, week 1 videos, those early videos. This is due at the end of your 8 weeks, so you do not have as much time as my 16-week courses. The schedule is probably being updated in My Stark State this week, but I have the workshop document right here. So you'll still have to register for them in My Stark State, but you can look and see the offerings. And they have quite a bit this semester. I was pleased to see the amount of workshops that they're offering because they've added to them. So you can see they have it organized by month. So you have quite a few options toward the end of January and then through February, and then a couple in March before that 8-week break. So those are all of your options for your workshops, or you can also take one of those Student Leadership Academy, which starts at the end of January. So that's just a reminder that that's coming due at the end of the semester. Okay, so this video is for week 2. I'm recording it in week 1, which is why you still see that there. We're going to go ahead and pop into week 2. And strangely enough, week 2 is actually less work than week 1, which is nice. I know week 1 has quite a bit to get you in and used to, especially since we didn't start until Tuesday this semester. So here's week 2. We're actually in chapter 4 this week, and you have 2 assignments. So you have 1 discussion forum, which is nice because last week you had 2. 1 discussion forum and 1 chapter assignment. But before we get there, I'm going to go ahead and talk about chapter 4. So in here is the link to chapter 4 textbook, which I already have opened up here. And this is about listening, taking notes, and remembering, which I think are really important skills to talk about early on in your semester, whether it's your first semester, 5th semester, does not matter. I think every semester you need to take stock of these particular skills. And as I mentioned before in my other videos, feel free to kind of look and focus in on maybe what you need in particular. Maybe you are already a really strong listener, but you have some issues with note-taking. So maybe that's where you're going to focus your attention, or vice versa, or whatever the case is. I want you to really spend time on the areas that mean the most to you, or that are going to be the most helpful to you. So that's chapter 4. And again, I always encourage you to kind of scroll through. Our text is really easy to navigate. This goes through lots of different note-taking methods, and you navigate through the bottom there. So please explore that, but I do want to just pull up the little slideshow here and just kind of go through the highlights, if you will. So chapter 4 is listening, taking notes, and remembering. So for some of you, you are either still in high school, because we do have some CCP students, so you are currently in high school, or you are fresh out of high school, and so maybe you still have that high school kind of approach, but college is very different from high school. So there's a lot of challenges with that, but also a lot of freedoms and a lot of, advantages to that. So, managing your time and knowing your strengths and your struggles are all important. So things you want to do for class. Now, many of you at this point are probably taking only online classes, but you still have to kind of prepare for them in a similar fashion. There are some differences, but in a similar fashion. So instead of like preparing for a physical class, like when you watch a video, what are you hoping to get out of it? How are you going to use this information and apply it moving forward? Physically take care of yourself. Make sure that you are prepared. I know this is an online class, for instance, but it would be helpful still to have maybe paper, pencil, something around you to just make sure that you're not having to pause videos over and over and get materials. Making sure that you are not distracted. In a physical classroom, that might mean you need to sit up close or away from the door. At home, that means maybe you need to just pick a nice space that's going to not allow as many distractions, or maybe you need to go to a different location if possible. I know during COVID that makes it a little tricky, but just making sure that you're physically ready. Listening to lectures, whether you are in the physical classroom or you're listening online, making sure that you are ready to receive the information. You're not thinking of 15 other things you have to do. Make sure you have the materials for you. Now, if you're listening to videos, it's easier because you get to pause and maybe rewind. If you're in an actual classroom, you have to really pay even more attention, look for cues in the instructor's voice, make sure your phone's away so that's not distracting you during class. So, listening during a lecture, there's some tips there. And of course, inside your actual chapter 4 link, there's a lot more detail to it. So this goes on continue, how do you make sense of what is being said? So you want to look to see, what did the instructor write on the board? One of the things I tell my reading students is really key is if you're going to cover chapter 4 in a lecture class, like in a physical class on Wednesday, read that chapter before class. That way you have kind of that prior knowledge established, and then you can really focus on what you don't know or what was confusing for your notes during class. And then one of the most important things you can do then is also ask questions so that you are getting the information that you need. Some instructors also will let you record a lecture if that is helpful to you. Okay, so here are some like what to do if you have an instructor with any kind of accent or too fast and they're speaking, which I know I have to remind myself to slow down at times, or if they're too soft. So there's some like kind of what if scenarios there. Some effective note-taking. Now, I will preface this with saying note-taking is not for everyone. Some people can sit in a classroom or listen to a video and they got it. Their audio strength is such that they don't need to take notes, or they need to take very minimal notes, and that's totally fine. Other people need those notes. I am one of those people that I need to have something written. So keep that in mind when we go through these kind of things, that this isn't a one-size-fits-all. But note-taking does help your listening. It supports it. It allows you to kind of put things in your own words, remember key ideas, and sometimes depending on the length of your notes or the format, they can kind of create a study guide. And so inside your actual, again, your text here, it will go over lots of different types of note-taking. I particularly like Cornell method whenever you have a lot of details and you have maybe information you need to form into a study guide. That's really helpful. I also do a lot of like lists and bullet points, but they also talk about outlines and concept maps in our chapter as well. Here are some other tips for note-taking. One of the big things I learned early on in my college career after I didn't do it was to always like label my notes, the date, maybe the pages, so that I could go back to a certain day of a lecture and look for it, to leave space between ideas so that I could add things back. Like that was really helpful to me. Another thing is to review your notes as soon as possible after class. That way, if you missed something or something wasn't very clear, you can think of it right then. Maybe send an email to the instructor or ask before you even leave the classroom. So, those are all good tips on helping to be an effective note taker, and essentially that builds on to be an effective study, and test taker. Other things, if you miss class, again, with an online class, this doesn't necessarily apply as much because you can have a day where you're not feeling well, and as long as maybe you've checked in and you look to see that you don't have anything due that day, you could always come back another day and listen to lectures or complete assignments. But if you are in a physical class, you want to touch base with your instructor, look at the syllabus, see if someone else has maybe notes that you can borrow. And then here is some memory information. So memory is something a lot of students say that they struggle with at times. How can you convert memory from your short-term or your working to your long-term memory? And so our chapter does go through a lot of tips here. I particularly like making sure that I make real life connections. So if I'm learning something, I always think, okay, how can this apply in my life, my personal life, my academic life, my work life, whatever that might be? Because if you are able to make connections and meaningful examples, you're more likely to remember it. I also do a lot of goofy little rhymes and songs, and that works for me. So whatever works for you, whether it's like maybe acronyms, or you chunk the information into smaller sections, or you just repeat, or you make a practice test, all of that is really helpful. One of the strongest memory techniques that kind of parallels test-taking techniques is to practice retrieval. So studying the information, but then giving yourself a practice test or having someone quiz you, because you're forced to try to remember it and withdraw it from your memory. So you're practicing that retrieval process, which helps you with your test-taking skills as well. Okay, so that's an overview of Chapter 4. Like I said, I wanted to present that. There's also, if you, since Chapter 4 has to do with note-taking, there's some online note-taking if you are a person who likes to take notes online. All right, so in terms of the assignments for this week, go ahead and click on assignments. You have 2 assignments, but you'll see there are actually 3 things listed here. There's a reason for that, because these 2 things go together. So you're going to take this How Well Do You Listen survey, and you'll click right on it, and it'll pop open, and you'll go through and it'll ask you a series.
Now that you've read about focused listening,
a series of questions that you'll have to respond to. You'll get your results, and with those results, because I will not see how you did on that, but with those results, you're going to respond in the discussion forum. So here are the questions you'll respond to. How did you do on this survey? Did the results surprise you? And what is your plan for improvement? Maybe you know you're a multitasker and that affects your listening. So you can talk about, I need to focus more, or you know what, I need to take better notes so that I can, actively listen for things that I'm missing, whatever the case might be. Here is a breakdown of kind of, again, how to do that. So just as a reminder, you'll hit create thread. It'll pop up the prompt again, so that way you can put it right in there. So you are, I'll have to go back here real quick. You are posting your original response to the How Well Do You Listen discussion forum by Wednesday for week 2 attendance. So week 2 attendance, if you post it by Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you'll get partial week 2 attendance. And then as you did in week 1, you need to respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. That's how you get the rest of your points for the forum itself. Remember, the forum and attendance are separate points. So respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. The second thing you are doing is your Chapter 4 assignment, which you'll go in and you'll see it is a Word document. So you'll click right there and it's going to open up. Here it is. And this all has to do with Chapter 4, the 3 major concepts: listening, note-taking, memory. So what it wants you to do, and you can go back into the text and look and see, what are 2 things you need to improve about your listening? You'll type them there. What are 2 things you need to improve, with note-taking? What are 2 things you need to improve with your memory? So what are you going to do for that? For your listening, are you easily distracted? So maybe you are going to find a quiet space to listen to your lectures. Or for your note-taking, maybe you're a very unorganized note-taker, so you're going to try the Cornell note-taking method. So, what are those things you're going to do to improve these areas? When do you expect to take this action? I don't need January 19th at 2 p.m. So maybe you'll just say in my first semester of college or in my first week of classes. So it can be kind of a general day, or for some of you, maybe the next time you're in a face-to-face class, because you're not taking a face-to-face class now. And how will you know when you've accomplished the action? How are you going to measure that? Are your grades going to go up? Are you going to be able to retain the information better? Are your notes going to look a certain way? So that's how you know. Okay, so thinking of these 3 areas, what are you going to do? Think of what you need to improve. What are you going to do to improve them? When are you going to do that? And how will you know? So you'll save that, whether on your desktop, in a file, wherever that might be. You'll click into here. Due date is up there. That is due by Sunday. You'll browse your files, find it wherever it might be, hit open, and it will upload right there, and I'll be able to grade it. Okay, so that is week 2. So as a quick refresh, 2 assignments this week. You are looking through chapter 4 to help you with them. You are going to complete the How Will You Listen survey using those responses you'll post in the discussion forum and respond to 2 classmates, and then complete the chapter 4 assignment. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out via course messages. Remember, over here in course messages, you can reach out to me there. You can email me. You can call my extension, whatever you need. Also, just as a quick reminder while I'm over here on the left-hand side, please be checking your course messages and your announcements. Also, the course calendar for every week, and then your grades, just making sure that you're taking accountability and just making sure that everything is done. All right? Have a great week. Bye.